And we will be doing some hands-on in R also. Microarray is an indispensable technology and a very reliable tool that has often allowed many biologists to monitor genome-wide expression in a single organism. It allows to monitor thousands of gene expression level at a single time simultaneously. Often called as DNA chip or gene slide, it consists of tiny spots that are often ordered in a single manner, or often placed in a regular fashion. These spots are called as spot features or spots. Basically, these spots contains single-stranded DNA molecules, which can be short oligonucleotide sequences or complete genome sequence of an organism. The technique relies on the hybridization methodology, where we extract the total mRNA content of any organism from two different conditions. These conditions can be any of the two variant states. Suppose it can be a cancerous or non-cancerous state, a septic shock or a non-septic shock case, a diabetic or non-diabetic case. That means one condition needs to be a reference or control and other needs to be a abnormality condition. The total mRNA content from both of these conditions are extracted and reverse transcribed using the reverse transcriptase enzyme, and following that the hybridization takes place. The already present single-stranded DNA molecules on the array plate, which we'll be calling as reporter in a normal microarray language, would be used to attach to the single-stranded cDNA molecules that we have extracted from the different conditions. So there is an equal probability of probe mismatch or match based on the cDNA sequence, which would be attaching to the probe plate. The two samples are then mixed and allowed to bind on the microarray slide. The process in which the cDNA molecules bind to the DNA probes is called as hybridization. And following this, the microarray plate is then scanned to the scanning imaging software to measure the expression of each gene based on the intensity levels. We will be calling it as a two-channel assay or dual assay, because the two conditions that we have extracted, that is the two different mRNA levels that has been converted to the cDNA levels, are labeled with a fluorescent dye, which are commonly used as two dyes: Cy3 dye, which is normally green in color, and Cy5, which is red in color. So following the hybridization, you get some intensity patterns depending on the expression levels, which are red or green, showing that how much strong the gene is upregulated or downregulated in the abnormality condition as compared to the reference condition. So this is a normal picture of a microarray experiment where the two samples are clearly shown as sample as reference and sample questions. How will be the data then will be analyzed, because it will ultimately affect the downstream analysis. The normal raw data is after intensity scanning is sent to the pre-processing, where we would be doing the normalization of the data followed by summarization, and some diagnostics plots are used to check whether our data is ready for differential expression analysis or not, which would be further submitted to the any kind of public repository such as Gene Expression Omnibus or ArrayExpress. The experimental design often consists of two types of major things which need to be accounted before performing the microarray experiment. First is the replication. The technical replicates, that are the replicates of a single biological sample, should be it present as much as possible, because it will give the more reliable results at the end. And in a two-channel assay or a dual-channel assay, where each channel is given to a single, one is given to the normality condition and one is given to the normal condition. The replicate should not be considered as independent signal intensities. It should be instead combined to obtain a single intensity per reporter for the same biological sample. There is also one factor which is majorly involved in the experimental design, which is the introduction of confounding factors. Suppose a batch of samples is processed on a single date by a particular individual, and the next batch is processed by another individual other date. Then there exists a confounding factor known as batch, because the two samples are now present in two batches as they are sequenced by two different technicians on different dates. Ideally, all the samples must be sequenced on a single date, and so that no batch is allowed. So for a proper data and after normalization, we need to also do the batch correction so that the data is properly ready for any kind of differential analysis, differential gene expression analysis between the two different conditions. The data processing involves the feature extraction and background correction part. The feature extraction, the signal that we obtain after the intensity scanning from our imaging software, we get the background signal as well as the foreground signal. Foreground signal is the actual signal which we want to measure, which is the reporter that is being hybridized to the label extract or the fluorescently labeled tag. But there are some background noise also, like suppose some dust or scratches is there or the slide is broken, which needs to be subtracted from this uh, foreground signal or the signal of interest we need to measure. For that, there are many softwares available in commercially softwares available in R, such as MAS, MAS and RMA, Robust Multi-Chip Average, which does a default normalization and summarization of the data, raw data. This is a kind of signal intensity signal after we get from the scanning software. Some of the scanning softwares are mentioned here, like GPix, Quantarray, and Scanalize. The middle part, which we are seeing in the rectangular box of blue color, this is the actual signal which we want to measure. But as you can see on the left and right sides, the black and grayish dots, they represent the background noise, which needs to be subtracted, which will be done in the normalization steps. We commonly call it as background correction. So after we get the raw data, there are many sources of systematic variations that affect the measurement of gene expression levels. And for that, normalization is done, which eliminates such kind of variations, because we want that our data needs to be on an equal scale or footing before performing any kind of analysis. As if we take the raw data as it is, the variability in the data will be so much that we would not be getting the correct results at the end. So for performing normalization, we generally have two kind of normalization softwares. The first is intra-slide normalization, which is called within array normalization, and the second one is between array normalization, which is inter-slide normalization. The within array normalization actually considers each hybridized assay as a single quantity and then normalizes each one separately without considering the effect of other on each one. Like it normalizes the normal control samples individually, followed by the control samples individually. So both normalization does not have any connection with each other. But commonly the microanalysis always involves the between array normalization, which is in which we normalize all the array or the hybridized assays equally to get an equal scaling or footing. These are some of the famous softwares which we have for within array and between array normalization. RMA normalization and MAS5 techniques are commonly used in the between array normalization. Let's discuss some about some methods about within array normalization method. The most commonly used three methods are normalization by global constant, global lowest normalization, predictive normalization. The normalization diagnostic plot, which may mainly assess whether our data has been properly normalized or not, is assessed via MA plot. I will show you MA plot how it looks like. Basically, in a MA plot, M represents the difference in log intensities between the two channels or the two conditions A and B, and and A represents the average of the log intensities of the two channels. So a typical MA plot, as shown on the left side, is before normalization, and on the right side it is shown after normalization. The points are more clustered towards M is equal to 0, showing that the intensity in both samples are normalized and corrected and on equal scaling. As you can see on the left side, it is not very near on the axis M is equal to 0. So no, what does normalization by global constant does? It actually subtracts from each of the M value of the reporter a constant, global constant M, small m, which is computed by which is normally the median or mean of M over a chosen set of reporters. Now, this normalization technique assumes that all the biases are equal on the same reporters, and the differential expression patterns in both the conditions are similar to some extent. But they often pose a problem if we consider like suppose we consider one is a pancreatic assay, a pancreatic array, and one is a brain array. And if we normalize, if we get a global normalized constant M from that, then it is not constant over there. So to remove that, we do the global lowest normalization technique. Uh, in this technique, for each M, it computes a function MA. Basically, it is also called as intensity dependent normalization. A is the intensity part. And from each M value of the reporter, it subtracts the MA. So that the points are more shrinking towards the M is equal to 0 axis. While in the print tip normalization technique, it computes a function MPA, where the function is the M value is a function of both print tips that has been used to print the hybridized assay for each reported individually, and also the intensity. The between array normalization, which will be commonly used in our micro experiments, consists of the famous quantile normalization technique or the robust multi-array average normalization technique. As you can see, there is a signal intensity plot which is varying with respect to different colors. Why there are different colors here? Because each color represents the number of batches in which our subsequent samples are present. Ideally, the signal intensity must be equal for both the channels. Either it has been after batch correction, so that our analysis follows a normal distribution curve for differential expression analysis. Following the normalization and background correction, we also need to get the expression ratio, which is the fold change, which would be using in our for quantifying the genes, whether they are upregulated or downregulated with respect to the normal condition. So the ideal definition of expression ratio is Tk is equal to Rk by Gk, where Rk and Gk represent the spot intensity for test and reference samples. If Tk is 1, it represents that both are on the equal level or both have equal expression pattern. But since the mapping interval of this expression ratio is inconsistent with many cases, so we generally do transformation of the normal expression ratio using inverse transformation and logarithmic transformation technique. We would be using the logarithmic transformation technique, which is done default by RMA technique. It basically does the log base 2 scaling of this original ratio. Tk is equal to Rk by Gk. If we do log base 2, it does log 2 Rk minus log 2 Gk, so that it has a continuous mapping space between the up and down deviation. Well, there are some of the diagnostics plots to quantify or assess whether we have properly done the normalization and summarization steps followed by batch correction. And is the data really ready for the differential expression analysis or not? MA plot we have discussed earlier. This is the box plot. A represents the box plot of an unnormalized data, whereas B represents of the normalized data. As you can see, there is high variability in the plot. As all the the data is not put on an equal scale, and the median centering line is trend as set as 0, which we after we get this plot, we can say the data is properly normalized. So this is the thing. Here majority of genes are unchanged between the two conditions, as the log signal of the median is now centered at the 0 point. We can also assess the normalization by the density plots, where we need to check whether the density of density distribution before normalization and after normalization has been properly done or not. In the first case, in the left side, the density always varies between the two channels, red and green. Whereas in the right side, after normalization has been done, the intensity distribution follows a single line pattern, more corresponding to a normal distribution. Lastly, we also need to check the PC analysis plot. If the normalization has been done, the two conditions or the two variant sample would be clustered properly, distinct from each other. Otherwise, they would be mixing with each other. And after we get a proper PCA plot, we can say that the data has been normalized properly. And please remember, the batch correction step we need to do is after normalization. And normalization does not do batch correction by default. So let's do some of the hands-on on our analysis. I hope all of you are having RStudio with you. So firstly, I would be downloading some of the necessary packages which would be commonly used in microarray analysis. I would be loading them one by one.
Prithvi, I think you should also tell these guys how to download RStudio, because some of them may not be familiar about it.
Okay, sir. So firstly, you need to go to the CRAN, type CRAN on the Google, and download the CRAN version. This is the framework, base framework of R. You can download for Windows. Download here. And you also need to download RStudio, which is a graphical GUI of R. You can download the first one, RStudio Desktop, which is free. So after loading the necessary packages which would be needed for the typical micro analysis, we are actually extracting two different types of gene expression micro datasets. So we are fetching the datasets from GEO, which is Gene Expression Omnibus. So first expression dataset has an accession number of GSE 41861. It is a dataset comprising of asthmatics and non-asthmatic patients. Total samples are 138. It is listed here, and each patient is given a unique identifier like GSM1026433 is identifier for a single patient. Likewise, different identifiers are there representing which patient is in which condition, asthmatics or non-asthmatics. Here on the next page, you will get the details of all about the page accession number and the patients in them. The second data set we will be also using for the asthmatics and non-asthmatic patients. GSE 41862. It consists of 116 samples in total. So we will be not doing it manually, we will be fetching in R itself. So the first command, get geo supplies files. This command actually fetches directly from the FTP URL of the geo. So we have to only mention the accession number here. So get geo supply files, GSE 41861 and 41862. You will need to run this command. This will fetch the automatically fetch the whole data set corresponding to these accession number and make a folder in your working directory. You first need to change the working directory and set it to a folder where you will be keeping all your files. So you can run this command. After running this command, individually we would be, it will download a zip folder. So we would be unzipping it using the command untar. GSE 41861 raw.tar. There is a file named in this folder. It will automatically unzip your folder and assign to a directory. I have named it as external directories equal to beta. And one by one, it will extract the cell files, which is normally the .cell file is normally the file which we obtained after the scanning software has analyzed the image. It quantifies the image and produces a .cell file. So we will be assigning to an empty object. I have named it as cells.gsc41861. Similarly, I will also do one GSC41862. Now the third command is, it will list all my files in the cell format or individually for each of the data set. I will do it for GSE 41861. See, it has made a folder in my working directory, and GSE 41862 also. Now I have to read the this command. Read FE is the main command which we'll be using in the reading the FE matrix files. Read FE actually reads all the files, all the raw read files for the raw GSE 41861 dataset. It's reading now. You can see in the console below. Once all the files have been read for GSE 41861 dataset, it will be similar to for GSE 41862 also. line number 77. Is everyone doing right now in R? We'll be doing for the second data set also. First data set has been done. Now I will show how some of the diagnostics plots are analyzed before and after normalization and batch correction. So first plot would be the intensity distribution plot. We will be plotting with hist raw data.gsc41861. In this object, we have already loaded all the raw read files for GSC41861 dataset. So I will show you how intensity distribution plot of an unnormalized raw read data GSC461 files looks like. So this is a typical plot of unnormalized data. As you can see, different color intensities are there, showing that the samples are clearly segregating based on the batch variables in the separate batches which they have been sequenced or hybridized to the assay plate. It's a variable right now, so we need to perform batch correction and normalization also. And we will be also seeing the MA plot before normalization. As you can see, the plots are highly scattered and not very near or close to the m is equal to 0 axis. You can run by this command. First, you need to extract the raw data using the command exprs. It will fetch the expression data from the raw file because this variable is right now an FE object due to this readFE command. We need to extract the expression object and load it, give it an empty variable name as raw. And now I show you the MA plot. It's of the unnormalized data. We would be fetching the phenotype or annotation data for both the data sets individually, showing that which sample is in which category, what are the sample's clinical characteristics such as age, gender. This will be used in normalization and batch correction part. Using the command getGeo41861, I am assigning to an empty object GSE41861 all the phenotype information for this particular dataset. P data I have assigned a variable named meaning phenotype data. Hello. हेलो हाँ जी भाई ऊपर दे दीजिए Here we are using a lemma package to basically segregate the data in two categories, that is controls and asthmatics. So I am here designing a design matrix. I already loaded f.gsc461 as factor, the data type is factor, in which I am grouping the data based on control and asthmatic patients, and then I'm giving it as input in the design matrix. Let's see how a typical box plot before of normalization or normalized data looks like for this data set. So this is the box plot of unnormalized data for GSE 41861 samples. On the x-axis, you can see the sample namings and expression values on the y-axis. Now this command RMA, robust multi-array average, will do the within array, between array normalization for our data set. We are doing it for the first data set right now. Obtaining its expression value. You can save it using the command write.table also. Now let's check what the box plot looks after the RMA command, whether our data has been properly normalized or not. Let's plot the box plot using this function, using this object RMA GSE 41861, which I am using to extract the expression value from this object. See this one, data.rma.not.4 GSE 41861. So after normalization, my box plots look like this for this data set. So there's a little shifting between some of the expression values, but the median centric line is still on the better scale as compared to the unnormalized data. You see the comparison. This is for the unnormalized data, and after normalization as well, the box plot look like this. We would be also checking the MA plot after normalization, where would be feeding the object RMA GSE 41861. The points are now less denser and closer to the M axis line as compared to the before normalization plot. You can see the clear distinction. Well, after normalization, this is the typical principal component analysis part, where across two principal components, PC1 and PC2, samples are somewhat mixing together. As you can see, they are not clearly segregating from one another because there are still batch effects remaining in the data set, which we need to correct them. So we will do that also. Now for the batch correction analysis, I'm using the package NoiseSec. We can also use other commercially available packages also, such as Combat, Sec, Combat, and SVD. So what I'm doing, I'm reading my RMA data, which is the normalized data, and I'm using the factors to tell my read data command that which sample is belonging to which class. So it will make an individual list in my this object named as rma.gsc461bc. After that, I am making a empty object named as mypca, and this command will actually do the batch correction analysis. A log transformation is not needed as it was already done using the RMA package. So I'm writing it as true because I don't need it. It has already been done. It means that it is already there. Normalization is also done, so we don't need to feed which type of normalization needs to be done here. So after batch correction, let me show you how the principal component analysis plots look like. As you can see now, the two clusters are clearly distinct, showing that which samples belong to which class. The control cluster, which is represented by the magenta color, is shown on the extreme right, and the asthmatic patients on the extreme left, showing that the batch correction is now done or performed on the normalized dataset. Now this is the MA plot after normalization plus batch correction. This one was after the normalization only, and after the batch correction is done, the points are now even more denser to the M-axis line. You can see the difference. And let's check the density plot after normalization and after batch correction. So after normalization, the points are the intensity values of both the channels are now more or less equal, but still there are some patches always remaining. And after batch correction, the intensity is proper now in equal form. We would be doing for the second data set, the same steps. We would be first normalizing and log transforming the unnormalized data for GSE 41862 and then batch correction or batch correcting that normalized data. we would be normalizing it with the RMA algorithm. See, it's showing background correcting in the console. It means it is subtracting the background noise from the foreground original intensity values or the foreground signal which we want to actually use. Normalizing. After normalization, we would be batch correcting our data set, the second data set. And now both the data sets are ready for use. Initially, the data sets always contain the probe IDs, which are the unique identifiers, and we need to map two unique gene symbols before using for differential expression analysis. So I will show you how a processed data set after batch correcting looks like. Okay. has been batch corrected. I will show you the first data set, RMA GSC 44861 BC done. There's a batch correction done. How it looks like. See, in rows on the extreme left side, there are probe IDs 1007 SAT 105380 11780. We need to map it to unique gene symbols to further use it in differential expression analysis. And in the columns, there are the sample IDs. We can get the information from the phenotype data, which we got from the getGeo command earlier. And these are the expression pattern in the data matrix form. Like this first expression value 11.501 is for this specific sample ID corresponding to this probe ID. Now what we will do for probe ID to sample mapping, we will be using the same package HGU 133 plus 2 symbol. And we are saying that if you cannot find, if the manufacturer ID cannot find the gene ID or gene symbol for that particular probe ID, place NA corresponding to that. That is not available. I am now saving the map symbols from the probe IDs in a data object map data.gsc 461 and 62 for both of them, and placing it in the batch corrected data set RMA GSC 461 BC done, and for the second one also. I will remove the whole rows which are corresponding to the probe IDs with no symbol available and delete them. You can also save them for both the data sets, map data files. Now what I will do using this command for both the data sets, actually many of the gene symbols correspond to multiple probe IDs, like there are duplicates available. So for that, I would be averaging the expression values corresponding to the same gene symbol, so that only one gene symbol per row appears in the final data set. So here I am using the function AGG, that is aggregate. Fun is equal to mean. It will actually apply the mean function. First, it will find the duplicate IDs with index matching. for first data set, our aggregation or the averaging has been done. I will do for the second data set. I'm changing the folder right now. After that, I will be using the LMFit function, which is I will be linear model fitting my data, aggregated data, with in correspondence with the design matrix for each of the data set. My fold change values, which I talked as the earlier as expression ratios, would be in the this object data fit.jsc 4.861 coefficients. After that, I will be designing the contrast matrices using the Lima package, using the design matrix that I created in this 260 line command, line number 260. (260) and 261 for first data set and 263 and 264 for second data set. I am now applying the two-tailed t-test for obtaining the corresponding p-values for checking if my genes are, which genes are significant in the differential expression, and this is between both the conditions. So now this line will add two extra variables in both my data sets, log FC and p-value. P-value 1 I have given to the first data set and p-value 3 and log FC to the second data set, apart from the expression values. Save it with the file name data1 with p-value and log FC and data2 with p-value log FC. Retrieve individual p-values from each of the data sets one by one. First from the 41861 and 41862. This chunk of code will actually check which are the common genes or the overlapping genes in both the data sets. Now I'll be applying the combined p-value method or combining p-value algorithm for actually meta-analysis, for performing meta-analysis on both of my data sets. Please note that this will be done only for the common genes that I have filtered just in this step. So here actually I'm making a function named pfish, creating the p-values, combining p-value 1 and combining common genes p-value 1, common genes p-value 2. giving it as an input to the function pfish. Now we'll apply Benjamini-Hochberg correction method for adjusting my p-values, which are obtained using this line, comp p-value. Save the file, combined p-value. This is combined p-value. I'm saving it in a file name, combined p-value. Let me show you what I've loaded right now. Data 1 with p-value log of c and data 2 with p-value log of c in data 1 and 2. See, this is data 1.
photo is
Left side is there are genes, the expression values, and at the end, where the gene expression values are, there is a section. I've added the corresponding p-values of the common genes here in data 1 and for the data 2. So I've done similarly. These are only the common genes. So out of both the data sets, 20,174 genes have been identified as overlapping. Now I am actually combining the expression values of both the data sets corresponding to the common genes in this command. 404 ntab. Ntab will consist of all the samples from first data set and second data set corresponding to 20,174 genes. You can see it consists of 20,174 entries and 257 columns. 138 samples were from the first data set and 116 from second data set. And 2 columns are there for the p-values. Now we'll be calculating the fold change values. So as you can see, there is fold 1, which is asthma 1 minus normal mean in the first data set, and secondly in the second data set. Here we are actually applying the logarithmic transformation, log base 2 fold change values comparison. Let's filter the data set. Let's filter the genes that are matching the threshold which we have set here. We will be filtering the genes which are having fold change greater than absolute fold change greater than equal to 0.5 and the Benjamini-Hochberg corrected p-value less than 0.05. So let us see how many genes are significant at this condition and both that follow both of these conditions. So there are in total 28 genes only out of 20,174 intersecting genes that we would be naming as DEGs, differentially expressed genes in both the conditions. How many are upregulated? 17 genes, and downregulated would be 11. From 28, 17 genes are upregulated in the asthmatic conditions after color dots are the So here you can see how the samples are clustering based on the clustering dendrogram on the That's it, guys.
Thank you, Prithvi, for your informative demonstration. And
Thank you, sir.
do anybody have any questions? Anybody want to ask something? Okay, if we don't have any questions, then we'll close this session. Thank you once again, Prithvi.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Prithvi, for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Should we leave, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.